I greet you with Jesus' joy because it is in him that I live, breathe, move, and have my very being. I am so glad that you joined Unboxed on purpose today. We are a podcast created for Favored by the Father Ministries. I am your host, Barbara Arlene Fields Brehon. Our guests usually come and talk about a time when they stepped outside of a comfort zone. Maybe that was a dark place in life, or maybe it was a simple pivot towards their purpose to become unboxed. We share experiences that lead to the fulfillment of God gifted, oh yes, God gifted purpose. So I pray that each episode will help our audience to access their authentic destiny. And sharing with us today, we have Jim Kelly. He will discuss our title, Steady Achiever. Jim Kelly is from California, and I'm just going to greet him right now so he can pronounce the name of that town that he's from. Hey, Jim.
Good afternoon. Good to talk to you.
Great to talk
We're
to
from
you as
Sol-
well. Say that again.
we're from
Sol.
Solvang, California. Solvang. It's a
Where is?
little Danish town in the north of Santa Barbara, California.
Oh, that's so wonderful that you joined us from that area, and I'm all the way on the other coast in Virginia. But we would like to let the audience know that you are a retired Air Force colonel. You have flown combat in Vietnam, and Jim and his wife own a horse ranch in Solvang, and he is a retired rancher as well as an author. Hello again, Jim, and thanks so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Take a few minutes and share with our audience how we met. How do we know each other?
We were contacted, I think, from a mutual acquaintance, Robert Williams and Quippy Quill. Contacted you and contacted me and put basically the two of us together. And I'm very fortunate. I thank Quippy Quill for their help, and I thank you. First time I've done a podcast.
Well, now, isn't this something? We're making history. We are both co laborers with that particular publishing company. We both are authors with work under them. And folks can see my thing scrolling at the bottom that you can tap into Amazon and find some of the things that I've written in terms of the series. But this show is featuring Jim Kelly, and he's talking about being a steady achiever. And so now, Jim, we're going to roll the script all the way back to your childhood, to your boyhood, maybe teen years. And if you would share with us what your passions in life were back in those very early days, because I believe that things that are passionate in a child don't really go away, and it spurs them on to who they become as adults and the careers that they chose. So we know that you're a retired colonel in the Air Force. We know that you are an author. We'll talk more about that later. But going all the way back, what were your passions as a child, as a boy, as a teenager?
I think from the earliest time that I can remember, sports took a lot of my time. I played with the kids in the neighborhood. I played with little league games, but I loved the sports. I loved to follow it. I loved to follow the major league teams, and it just seemed to stay with me for the rest of my life. I don't go to that many games at all, but I watch them on TV and I enjoy following certain teams like the Boston Celtics and the New England Patriots. So I'm from back east too, and I follow a lot of stuff from the back east. Uh, like little boys growing up, I think we all wanted to be firemen, and I think that was the first thing I thought of. Never thought about the military. It was always to be a fireman. That was the everybody in the neighborhood I think wanted to be a fireman.
So you wanted to be a fireman, but you turned out to be an Air Force colonel. How'd you get to that?
Well, I think I hit a low point in my life, and I was looking for something, some guidance, probably a profession. And the Air Force reached out to me and pointed out a program that I could qualify for, and I did. And I went in, became a second lieutenant, and I got my wings at the same time. And I'm very grateful for the Air Force for the opportunity they gave me, and it has stayed with me for the rest of my life.
Any of those moments you want to share with us that has helped to shape your unique identity? Give us maybe a 30-second identity check in terms of who it is that all those things you've already shared has helped you to become.
I think when I was running the Iranian program back in 1974, it was a very low spot in my life. My wife was dying of cancer, and I was constantly flying back and forth to Iran running this program, this communication program. I asked my superiors if I could be out of this. This was just taking too much. It was too much stress for me. And they granted the wish. And I sat back and I could spend more time with my wife. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life to follow that woman to the day she died and see the character that she possessed. You don't really know about somebody until they have reached a hard, a tough point in their life. And this woman was dying, and I just marvel at it. To this day, I look back at it and say, God, I can't believe how wonderful that was. It was one of the best times of my life.
I can understand all the passion that you feel toward that. And I'm looking at the title here as a steady achiever through the dark moments, and you continue to persevere toward whatever your next was. And so as we sojourn through your life from those early days and coming up to now, who would you say was your biggest influence in life? Looking at your entire life, who would you say is your biggest influence?
I think now probably my second wife. Uh, she had some hard times early on in her life, and just what she did to succeed. She also is a retired full colonel. She served on many boards in the county, and she runs a charity for supporting the troops. She puts together packages and sends them to the troops in forward operating locations, basically around the world. And she gets 20 to 25 women every month, and they get together and they put together these large packages and send them to the troops. And I just think that is fabulous.
That is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so God has blessed you with family life, and I've sort of pseudo met your grandson back there. But we also want to dump some more of the puzzle pieces from out of this box where we're becoming unboxed on purpose and see how the Lord puts them together. Tell us about a crucial time when you stepped outside of a box. What specific thing can you share with the audience where you stepped outside of where you had been to pursue your authentic purpose?
I think I had a very tough early life. My brothers and I were in the orphanage, and we were taking out basically one at a time. I probably came out first. Then 4 years later, my brother Raymond. Then my brother Thomas. 8 years later, then my brother Jackie. Um, the family that raised me did a good job, but they they were a hard family. They were very disciplinarian, and I was made to walk a fine line. I couldn't wait to get out of that. I persevered. My grades were good. I just when the Air Force came along and gave me that opportunity, I was gone.
Mm,
I look back and I say thank you very much, but it was not a fine time in my life.
that's understandable the way that you're sharing that. Do you have any regrets?
I regret that my I didn't get to spend time with my brothers. Here I am with three other brothers, and I get to see them maybe once every 2 3 years. One I hadn't seen in 28 years, and finally, gradually, we all came together, and then I thought that was a great part of my life. I thought my brother Jackie, who spent 13 years in the orphanage, did a wonderful job. He retired from the Coast Guard, and I thought he became a remarkable individual. My brother Thomas is 96 years old, and I talk to him frequently. And just, he was my childhood idol, although we weren't living together.
It makes a lot of sense in terms of how you're sharing about being raised there in the orphanage, and your brothers, your siblings were separated as you were adopted out and that sort of thing. We're still focusing on passions from early childhood as you escaped, so to speak, into the Air Force, and we're pursuing your ultimate purpose. And so I'm digging deep now with all these puzzle pieces that you're throwing out a little bit at a time to find out what you consider your ultimate purpose in life to be.
I think my ultimate purpose in life is to be a good father. I still maintain contact with my four children. I texted them over New Year's. We I can't believe a time that when my children say goodbye to me, they don't tell me they love me, and I don't tell them I love them. I think having a family is the greatest thing a person can have. I mean, you can be successful in life and you can do things, and maybe you get one of your books made into a movie, but it doesn't compare to what you have for a family. My family gets together every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. We used to get together on every birthday, and with 10 grandchildren, that's a lot of getting together.
It
But
is a lot of getting together. It's a lot of fun. But keep talking. Tell us more about how all of this is connected to your ultimate purpose in life. We are unboxed on purpose today.
I think one of the things that I did back after I retired from the military is I formed a couple of companies. I had a real estate company and then a development company and subsequently a finance company. And I brought all four of my children into my company. And when I retired in 2007, I sold the business to my children. And my children still operate that business. And I keep thinking that fabulous that you can work with your children and watch them grow as adults, not just as children, but as adults, and see them. They've taken the business and they've done much better than I, which is fabulous.
It is wonderful. That is a great thing. And so, as you talk about all of that stuff, when you look back, what is it that you wish you had known, let's say 30 years ago?
I wish I had known how to have more patience. God, I wish I had more patience. Look at things and take your time and just let everything evolve. You don't have to make it work all the time or force it to work. Just see how it goes.
Say that again. See how what goes.
See how let the situations evolve as they are. See things as they are, not as you want them to be, but as they actually are, and react that way. I wish I had learned that a little bit earlier in life. I think I've learned it now, and I think that's how I operate my life.
So you have children, you have grandchildren, you have an extended family that may be living here, there, and everywhere at this time in your life. But let's
We
project this thing fast forward 3 or 4 generations from your grandchildren. What advice can you give to the generation yet unborn that would prevent them from feeling stuck in a box?
I think the advice that I give all my grandchildren is the same I would give them. Keep an open mind. Look at things as they are, not as you want them to be. Accept people as they are. Don't force them into a box that they don't belong in.
Yeah, it sounds mighty simple, but I'm trying my best to get you to talk about why you named the show Steady Achiever.
I think from my earliest life, I looked at as not somebody that wanted to sit on the sidelines. I always wanted to be part of the equation. I always looked at what was ahead, down the road. What could we do better? What could we do next? I've seen that with my wife. My wife looks at things that way. What do we do? Yeah, we have a horse ranch, but we have a charity, but we're looking to see what else we could do. How could we get more involved in the community? That's how I look at life.
Just giving you an opportunity with open mic to share as much as you want, but that's quite all right. I know that you are an author because that's the thing that we have in common that kind of brought us together with our I would call my agent connecting us because he often shares people that he works with to be guests on the show. And so tell us a little bit about your work, your writing, and we will show some of the images of your book covers on the screen as you talk about them.
I started out looking at writing back in 1970 when I was in Vietnam, and the early writings I did were not very good. I think I was trying to figure out how to go about it. It wasn't until 95 that I got in a class run by Barnaby Conrad, who wrote Matador, the famous bullfighter Manolete. And that's when I started to look at it. And I think you evolve as a writer. I think I wrote like Dick and Jane at first, see Dick run, see Spot. But gradually, I think you evolve and your writing gets a little bit better. You get some correction from some sources that are involved in the business. And I started writing, and I didn't know what I was writing about. And then finally, it dawned on me what I was. I seem to like to write about minorities. The Western books that I've written about are about the Sioux and the Chumash and the slaves in Alabama. And I've written several books dealing with that and how they evolved. And I look at trying to get my characters to evolve as we go along. I've written a Civil War novel. I've written a Vietnam War novel, mainly because I was there. I had some things I wanted to say and I want to talk about. But again, as I look back at my writings, my latest book is about the Chumash, who had a very rich society and was stolen from them by the Spanish and the Mexicans, and gradually what happened to them.
So are your books fiction or nonfiction? What genre, what
I write
category do they fall
I
in?
write all nonfiction, and about seven of my books run about seriously about 1860 to about 1900. I seem to like to write in that era. 1890 for the westerns, 1860 for the Civil War novel. Of course, the Vietnam novel is a recent one, but I do like writing. I started out with a couple of characters in the westerns, Tommy Sanchez and his wife, and I kept them through six books, and I'm keeping them through the seventh book as I write a western book. So, and then I add in characters as if I like them, I keep them, and I move them through the books too.
I noticed that the word breed is used in several of your titles. Would you tell us about that? I would like to know more about that.
As I started looking at trying to figure out what I was going to do, I like to write about those who had mixed blood. The Sioux, the Tommy Sanchez was half Sioux, half white. Several of my characters in the book, one of the slaves in Alabama was half white, half black. I like writing about that, how they evolved and what they did to get out of that box they were in.
Hmm. Interesting challenges that you are putting forth. Perhaps our listeners would be interested in securing copies of your books and looking at some of the series that you have. How would they go about doing that?
You can, excuse me, all my books are on Amazon. You can go on Amazon.com on books and go James S. Kelly, and my books will come up. Barnes and Noble has some of my books. Um, there are other book companies out there. I was surprised this morning as I looked on the internet. Other book companies have got my books, different prices, and I was
Mm.
surprised at that. But Quippy Quill is my publisher. They're out in Delaware, and I've got two. I got kellybooks.com is one of my web pages, and kellywritings.com is also another of my web pages, which shows all my books I have. I've written six westerns, three mysteries, and two others ones, and I'm working on an 11th book at this time.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I always like to know what people are up to and what they're planning to do next. And you've given us that information. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before I give my closing
Yeah,
remarks?
I look now. I'm probably uh, an average writer. I sell some books, not enough like Grisham does, but it seems like at this point, since I've been dealing with Quippy Quill, I now have a screenplay that's out on one of my books, The Downtrodden Breed. I did
Mm-hmm.
this podcast. I understand from Quippy Quill I'm going to do a radio program. My books went into Barnes and Nobles up in San Luis Obispo. I delivered 15 books there the other day. So there's a lot of things that are happening. If I had 10 more years to go, they probably would work. You know, there would probably be some things done that would make me, very proud of some of my work.
I'm sure you're proud of what you've done already because, as you said, our writing evolves, and wherever it is that we've started, we always end up in the place that has been so ordained and divinely orchestrated, in my belief, by God. And so we
Uh,
work through life doing this and doing that. And we ultimately end up doing those things for which we were created in the first place. Any
I
comment
think
you like to make about that?
I think I'm comfortable where I am right now. I think this is where I ought to be and what I like to write on. I'm comfortable writing. It seems to flow a lot better. It isn't contrived. On my early writing, I think is contrived. You're trying to make it work so hard, it doesn't.
Absolutely. Some of my best writing is from journaling and how it simply flows when I sit before the Lord and allow Him to speak through me. And what goes in and onto the document is what it is. And so, again, I thank you so much for sharing with us. And we have displayed some of the images across the screen. Other people will be reaching out to you to secure your books, and if they want to reach out to you, you say they can do that through your website.
Right? kellywritings.com or kellybooks.com.
Kelly
And I'd like
Writing.
to Kelly
Okay.
Writings, Writings. I would like to add one more thing before I go off the show, and that is my wife's charity is We Support the Troops, and she does a fabulous job. And shows you a picture of how they do it, what they have on when the women get together and put all the packages together to go out to the troops in forward operating locations.
That sounds fabulous. If you would send me a copy of that picture, then we can have that on the screen so that the audience can get a better view of that as well. And if there is a link that will help people to reach out and be a support to the work, the ministry that your wife is doing, then we can make sure to scroll that across the screen as well. Is there
I'll get
anything
my
else you'd like
grandson.
to add?
No, I'll get my grandson to do that.
God bless you. If grandson is still back there, just peep up your head there, sir. And let us see that you're still there.
Oh, he's a handsome kid. He's about 6'1", blonde, blue eyes. You know, 20 years
And
old.
in the name of Jesus, we just thank God for family. We thank you for the life that you have led. We thank you certainly for the service that you have provided to not only our country, but to the world. So, again, thank you, sir, for your time and thank you for your service.
Ma'am, thank you so much. This is a first for me, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm just be in a thrill a minute when we go through the editing process to put all the pictures up of the books and the things that you're about to share with regard to the work that your wife is doing. So we thank the audience as well for joining us today. We generally share for about 30 minutes or so. It may be a little under, a little bit over that amount, but it doesn't really matter. But we do these episodes and I post them weekly on Unboxed on Purpose YouTube channel. Favored by the Father Ministries YouTube channel is where you can find us. You may also tap into our Facebook page, LinkedIn, and most podcast platforms. And so basically, as he said, our writing evolves, we evolve. Just like butterflies coming out of a box, allowing the Holy Spirit to advance us to immeasurable, lofty levels in the Lord. We want you at Favored by the Father Ministries to fulfill your purpose. We want you to bloom wherever you are planted. We really want you to grow your intimacy with the Lord as you ponder the various points that the Lord gives you. So we want you to grow and grow in grace, God's special favor as you remain favored by the Father. Thank you so much for joining us, not only today, but in the weeks to come.
Bye bye, Deborah. Thank you.